Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Penn State football fans. Johnny McGonigal, Bob Flounders, the Blue White Breakdown here with PennLive on a Friday morning.
Yeah.
Typically we do these Thursdays, but there was a Penn State media availability up in State College with Matt Campbell and co. on Thursday. El Babo was there,
Yeah.
bringing us all the details. And Bob, before we get into that, it's
Yeah.
Masters weekend. It's
I
the
was
sun
hoping you would
is
bring it up. I was hoping you would
it's
bring it
it's
up.
it's Masters weekend. The sun is shining outside. At least it is in Philly. I hope it is in Harrisburg and wherever anyone else is listening to this as well.
Uh-huh.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm glad you brought Masters Weekend up. I know how much you love golf, especially the Masters. I am 105% certain you have some rooting interests in this one, maybe a little money spread out on some golfers you like. I just wanted to tell you, you brought up the Masters. Now that you're pretty much covering the Eagles, and you will maybe occasionally get to a Penn State availability or maybe a big Penn State game when the schedule permits, you are definitely going to enjoy Penn State's new OC Taylor Mauser, who spoke yesterday after a lengthy practice availability. It was some players. It was Matt Campbell. It was the special teams coordinator Justin Lustig, and it was Taylor. Taylor is really they don't come more down to earth and more humorous than him, but he is a huge golf fan. He's a big hockey fan, but he also really likes golf. That he tries to get out when he can, but he was talking about the Masters with the beat writers, because there's a lot of beat writers that like golf as well, and some opinions were being exchanged back and forth about who everyone liked to win. Cameron Young was a popular name that came out yesterday, and if you followed through on that, I think your Masters pool is in peril. I'm pretty sure that Taylor, he had a long list of guys he liked or disliked, but at the very end, I think he really liked the chances of Victor Hovland. And unless things changed very late yesterday, I don't think that pick is going to hold up as well. I think he was maybe not. He didn't think Rory could repeat, and that could end up biting him in the butt. But he really likes golf. I know you do as well. I'm excited for this weekend too, and it's great now that you can watch the Masters on like 18 different platforms now. I think it's on Prime Video now. It's all over the place. I think it was on Peacock last year, if that was possible. But I will track down the streaming service and watch it with you as well.
Yeah, I was trying to explain the streaming stuff to someone who's new to golf the other day, and I'm like, yeah, you got like a streaming, you got like holes 4, 5, 6, you got Amen Corner, you've got, and then you got Amazon and then ESPN later, but then CBS comes on later in the weekend, and it's like it's
exhausting.
it's exhausting. But I'm there flipping through, making sure I'm watching as much as humanly possible. I liked the picks from Taylor yesterday of Hovland and if he liked Cameron Young going into the tournament. But yeah, Hovland did not play well on Thursday. Cam Young fought back. He got up to like from 4 over to 1 over to end his round. I'm in a couple of one and dones, Bob. One, I have Scotty Scheffler, which you pick the golfer one time a year and then you can't pick him again. So I'm like, okay, Scotty at Augusta, let's set it and forget it. And then I went with the second favorite, John Rahm, and he finished his round 6 over. So, I might be missing the cut in that one, which is brutal. But you talked to Taylor Mauser, and for Penn State fans listening to this who might not care at all about golf, they're like, please stop talking about the Masters. Talk about Penn State football. And I could talk about the Masters the entire podcast. You know that. But Taylor Mauser speaking yesterday, Bob, talking about Penn State football, talking about Rocco Becht, talking about the offense, talking about the installs, everything else. What stood out to you most from talking to Taylor?
Yeah, so it's April 10th, and we're just this is the second practice availability we got. I don't know. It's early, but I'm picking up a trend. It just seemed watching them. They have a lot of guys that are either limited or not practicing. So as far as progress on field in the spring, I don't know if you're a Penn State fan that you want to focus on that. I think Matt and his staff know that it's really going to be about August, getting these guys 100%. It's really about installation and kind of getting the players, whether they're young or they're old, if you're not an Iowa State transfer, you're all in the same boat. If you're not an Iowa State transfer, you're learning a new system, and that applies to the majority of the coaches as well. And I think that's really what this spring has been about, is just getting comfortable with how they want to run their offense, their defense, Justin Lustig's special teams, and then be able to hit the ground running, I think, in April with a healthy cast. But watching them kind of go through their paces, so when the offense was kind of running through some plays, and they weren't really going live, but they were running plays. Rocco was throwing the ball. There were a lot of assistant coaches playing defense, and it was funny just watching how passionate they were. Ryan Clanton, who's the offensive line coach, was in the middle of everything. Matt Campbell was playing linebacker, and I think you could tell he really enjoyed that. They weren't hitting anyone, but they were very serious about getting the players good looks, good defensive looks. Mauser was in the middle of everything too. And I was just thinking that I don't ever really recall maybe the old Penn State staff kind of really enjoying themselves while coaching, their positions. And, maybe that's an early read that will not necessarily pan out. But these guys genuinely seem to enjoy working with these players and getting them ready. And Matt, they were very, very active and eager on the defensive side, and they ran through a lot of plays. One thing I would say is I think Penn State is very much prepared because of the quality of the players. I think they're very much prepared to go into August camp with some young offensive tackles in prominent roles. And I think they're prepared to do that because of the quality of the offensive tackles. Malachi Goodman, again, is just, you look at him, you watch him, he does not look like or act like a second-year player. He's been working a lot at left tackle. Owen Aliciene, I hope I pronounced that right, is another guy. Garrett Sexton. And it does appear, I was not really sure what they're going to do with Anthony Donko, because that's kind of a luxury they have. He could play inside or outside. I could see him outside at tackle, and Matt talked about that. They feel really good, I think, about Cooper at one of the guard spots, and Trevor Buer, I believe, the guy that started, I think, 12 games over the last 2 years. Brock Riker allegedly is going to battle Dom Ruley for the center job, but it sure looks like it's his. I think they know who their offensive line is going to be. I think they know who their swing guards and tackles are going to be, and that's a good feeling, right? Offensive line is a big deal because, Johnny, if anything happens to Rocco Becht this year, for all intent and purposes, the season's in the toilet. They won't say that. I know they like their quarterbacks, but he's had 2 shoulder injuries. He's not the biggest quarterback. Sharp guy. The ball comes out quick. He knows the offense. He knows all the checks. You're not going to surprise him at the line of scrimmage. They got to protect him, so that's the priority. But I do think, I don't know. I'm trying to remember the last time maybe that you saw a Penn State team prepared to go into maybe the season with maybe a couple of second-year offensive tackles coming off red shirts. Drew Shelton played a lot early, but he played, I believe he played as a true freshman in 2022. He had to, when Olu got hurt. But this is a little bit new to me, but I think it really speaks to just how much they think of the offensive tackles.
Yeah, and the offensive line as a whole too, Bob. Like going into, I guess, like kind of going into this offseason, but really when they were figuring out the coaching staff and they were figuring out the portal, like after Matt Campbell got hired, the biggest question was, okay, is Rocco Becht going to join him from Iowa State? And which guys are going to come over from Iowa State? But something that I had like a keen eye on is like, what is this offensive line going to look like? Because you lose Venga Ioane, who now is locked in as a first round guy at guard. And you lose Drew Shelton, who, like you mentioned, stepped in as a freshman in 2022 when Olu went down and started, I believe, 5 games to end that season. Played a lot of ball for this team. 2024, 2025 was a consistent starter. And so you lose those 2 pieces from an offensive line, and Drew's going to get drafted. He'll end up, in the third or fourth or fifth round. And then Nolan Rucci too, in terms of depth, in terms of
Yeah.
a guy that you can had a really good CFP run. He's gone as well. So you lose those pieces, and you're like, okay, well, Rocco's probably coming over, but like you mentioned, the injuries, the labrum and all that, like, you got to keep this guy upright. You got to keep this guy upright, like, because he is not the only reason, obviously, but like a big reason why fans should be optimistic and confident going into this upcoming season, that it's a manageable schedule. You have all these factors that are kind of going in Matt Campbell and his staff's direction, entering their first year at Penn State. The last thing you can afford is for him to get hurt. And so what is that protection going to look like up front? What are the running lanes going to look like, for all the backs that they have? And it's a real positive that this came together the way it did, that they were able to keep Donko, that they were able to keep Cousins, that they were able to bring over the talent that they did from Iowa State, and have this level of depth and confidence in that group.
Yeah. And I asked Matt about the young tackles, and he's overwhelmingly a positive guy. That's clear, and he should be. But you could tell when he was talking about Goodman that I don't know that, he's come from Toledo and he's been at Iowa State. He's done a great job making, essentially three-star players or guys of that ilk into, borderline NFL players, or in a lot of cases, legit NFL players. And that speaks to him and his staff, and kind of how they get the most out of their athletes. I just don't think that Matt and maybe Taylor Mauser, and I think definitely Danton Lynn on the defensive side, who was at, I think, UCLA, USC, the former Penn State corner. They just haven't had the collection of athletes that I think they're going to be working with. Malachi Goodwin is just a freakish looking player, very confident. And Mauser said he's probably the most talented player these eyeballs have ever seen. So just the way he said that, it was kind of perfect. But everyone's kind of in line when it comes to Malachi. And he's the guy that I think of all the players, in September and in the Big Ten season, if I had to draw up a list of players I'm excited to see, that is such a huge position, especially in Big Ten play. You're going to see the best defensive edge rushers, not only in the Big Ten, but in the country, coming at you, and you're not going to get a lot of help in a lot of cases. They have some big tight ends, but I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't know that Owen Aliciene is far behind him either. He was a highly recruited kid as well. Matt talked about him and said, he could probably play both tackle spots, and he said, I think he could play guard, even though he's almost 6'8", which is rare, but it speaks to his athleticism. He also said that when he was at Iowa State, he did recruit Garrett Sexton, who's from Wisconsin. He was familiar with him. He likes him as well. And you throw in Donko, and eventually they're going to have a pretty nice rotation, I think, of offensive tackles once the youngsters get comfortable in the system. And I do think Brock Riker from Texas State is a sharp guy. I keep forgetting that he played left tackle in high school. And for him to have that kind of athleticism, I think he was a little bit lighter at the center position, is another big deal. I was also, they brought some Iowa State wideouts with them that have experience, that they're going to count on them. But I really think between the running back Hansen and the tight ends, if they're healthy, in Brahmer, and rapport, the offense might end up just kind of running through them, because they're very, very they're matchup problems. They just are. The running back, I think, is extremely underrated. He was a second team All Big 12 pick. He would have had 1,000 yards last year. He got dinged up. But I do think, I don't know that enough people are talking about the Hansen kid. And watching the way that Brahmer moves at 6'7" is pretty impressive. Rappelier was on the field yesterday, but he wasn't really in uniform. He's not healthy yet. They do like their wideouts, but I do think Rocco's best friends this year on offense are going to be his linemen, but also it's going to be Hansen, and it's going to be the tight ends.
As it should be in the Big Ten, right, Bob?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at stylistically what Matt Campbell is bringing over from Iowa State, And it's like you said, the offensive line, and obviously keeping so many pieces. So it's not just Iowa State guys, but you look at the Iowa State guys that are in Happy Valley now, and it's like, oh, I can see them in the Big Ten, like just stylistically in terms
Yeah.
of the way they play. They're all tough. They all get it. But also just like pairing that with Taylor Mauser's offensive approach of not being afraid of taking your shots, of the way Jaden Higgins, put it to
Yeah.
me a few months ago, letting
Go ahead.
your, what's hang, like, it's like, so you have that approach combined with this, with this, kind of nastiness, this toughness, and
Yeah.
that plays, I mean, across college football, but it especially plays, in the Big Ten. So I think that's really important. Like as this offense kind of gets settled and gets installed, and obviously not having Rocco in there, at least like in full action, and Mansky with his development. Like there are some things you wish would be perfect for spring ball that aren't perfect, but across the board, I mean, it's a pretty good setup to have. And also spring ball, it's about like kind of like feeling things out, and especially for a new staff, and also like having some fun, like you mentioned earlier, like the coaches jumping in on defense, like
Yeah.
that's stuff that maybe it happened when
We
like
just never
our
got to see
media,
it.
and we just never got to see it like during our media windows. Maybe it did happen under James Franklin and his staff, but to see that, I mean, I'm curious. Did Clanton get a big boy pick six? Did Campbell jump in and get any PBUs?
Ryan was playing. He was head up on some offensive linemen, just kind of.
That makes sense.
But he was more. He was calling out stuff for the offensive line, and then he was kind of just in the way of a couple of offensive linemen, and he was just kind of looking, I think, to see mentally if they were picking up the checks, and when Rocco would change the play, how they would react, because Riker is a third-year player, but it's his first year with these guys. I talked about the young offensive tackles. Cooper Cousins, it does not have he's played a lot of football, but he has not played a lot of football, I think, as a starter. Bure is a guy that I think they're not really worried about at all. He started, I think, 6 games last year, 6 games the year before. But Clanton is an interesting guy, and Mauser an interesting guy as well. I spent a lot of time just watching the offensive line. And when I just wanted to see the way that Rocco kind of, when he was throwing the ball, you couldn't touch him, but the way the ball came out, the anticipation, it's going to be really hard. The way that they use Brahmer and when Rappleyea gets healthy, it's going to be hard to match up with those guys. And Brahmer he's a very well-spoken guy, but he seems like he's one of those guys that knows the offense so well, much like Tyler Warren did in 2024. If it's possible to be a little bit bigger version of Tyler Warren, he might be that. But I don't want to make that comparison because it's not really fair to Brahmer, and I've only seen him in a couple of practices. But he gets to the right spot. He gets there in a hurry. I didn't see the ball hit the ground one time. Rocco clearly is going to be looking his way in key situations, especially in the red zone. And why wouldn't you? And what I really want to see are 2 things. I want to see him and Rappleyea on the field together, because Rappleyea at the end of last year, Johnny, I think he had really come on. Another reason to really appreciate what Terry Smith did, not only in getting them to a bowl game and winning their final 4 games, but also the way that he got some players that were not being featured, and they delivered. Whether it was Rappleyea, whether it was Katron Allen in a feature role, whether it was Kobe Howard, he looked like he was a little limited yesterday. I don't know that he's 100% healthy. But another thing I wanted to get to is, I've talked about the skill positions. I've talked about Rocco, the offensive line. I still think at some point in the Big Ten, they're going to need a field stretcher, and they're going to need a home run threat. And everyone would assume that it would be Kobe, and I think he could be that guy based upon some of the big plays he made last year. But if it's not him, I'm not sure who it would be.
Maybe Zay Robinson. Maybe it is Soul. They have options.
Yeah,
they have options, but there is a reason why so many people, and not just fans, but like people internally in the building, were excited that Kobe Howard was coming back, that he wasn't leaving
Yeah.
during that kind of mini exodus of guys. And obviously, you lose a Chaz Coleman to Tennessee, you lose Amari Campbell, but the quality of
Right.
player that they brought back was
Yeah.
really big across the board. And Rapp was one of them. Kobe's one of them. Malachi Goodman we talked about. Cousins we talked about. Donko we talked about. So like laying the foundation for those guys to have an expanded role, and talking more specifically about Kobe and Rapp, laying the foundation for them to have a more expanded role in 2026 and continuing the growth that they had, in practice last year. And at times during games, especially down the stretch, like you said, when Terry took over and started playing playing the guys who deserve to play. I think it's going to be really big. I think it's going to be really big for this offense, really big for them individually. Obviously they came back to Penn State and had other options. They want to be featured. They want the ball. They want to make an impact. And I think they will. I really think they will. And obviously you look across the board at like Taylor Mauser's offenses the last 2 years at Iowa State. In 2024, a lot ran through, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, but they spread it around last year. Obviously, with the running game, they run the ball, but also getting a lot of guys involved in the passing game in a lot of different, unique, fun ways, and not in like a weird Kotelnicki way, but more just like a like we're gonna get our guys the ball, and so I'm intrigued to see what if anything some of those guys do in the blue white game. If it's televised, whatever it looks like. It's draft weekend, so like I'll be at the Eagles facility. I know you'll be at Beaver Stadium, so I'm hoping it's on TV so I can like watch it on that Saturday. But if it's not, I might just have you just like take a video of the entire game and then just send it to me so I can watch.
I'm hoping for two things on April 25th. A quick finish. I'm sure that Matt Campbell that's on his mind as well, and maybe less wind. This year would be great. Although I think this year I hope we'll be inside instead of the outdoor seating. I was appreciative of it at the start of the blue-white game last year, but once the wind started howling, the temperature kind of got lower and lower as the game went on. That was a little bit of a challenge, but you know what? It beats really, working in an office, I think, for a living. But yeah, I see that they're even calling it a practice. I see it being very limited. They're gonna let the January enrollees probably they'll get a lot of work. The young guys are going to get a lot of work. But I think I do really think that Matt and his staff took a look at some of the veteran players they had coming off injuries and starting with the quarterback. And they're like, look, let's just focus on installation. Let's take a long look at the first and second year guys, especially, and let's take a look at the transfers to see what we really have with these guys. And let's have them all ready to go when we start practice sometime, I think, in early August. Johnny, also, I got to say, I'm super excited that Big Ten Media Days are going back to Chicago. I think everyone, it's no secret on the beat how much I love the city of Chicago. Indianapolis, I was watching that Final Four coverage. I think it was in Indianapolis over the weekend. And I was looking at that city and I'm going, man, this city is a lot of things, but it is not Chicago. And I don't know if the basketball fans had a great time at the Final Four, but I know no matter any time of year, if I'm in Chicago, I'm going to have a good time.
But I like Indianapolis. Like I like how walkable it is, and
it is that it is walkable. When I always just compare it to Chicago, and it's just not. It's just not the Windy City. But maybe I'm being too tough on Indianapolis, but I just can't. It's Indianapolis is like mid, and then Chicago's just elevated. Especially when it's in the fall or in the summer when it's warmer. I mean, I've never experienced a Chicago winter, and I doubt that I ever will, but I might have a different opinion about Chicago in January.
Look, the last time I was in Chicago was for Big Ten Media Days, and this is a while ago now. This is going back maybe 2017. It's been a long time. I need to get back. But the day before Big Ten Media Days started, me and a few writers sat in the bleachers in Wrigley, hung out in Wrigleyville a little bit before the game. In July, amazing vibes. It was amazing, Bob. And I need to get back. I need to get back to Wrigley. I need to get back to Chicago. I'm jealous, and I know that you'll have a good time. That's a little ways out, though. We still have spring ball to finish up. You got
Draft.
whatever. You got the draft, coming up in a couple weeks. Same weekend as the blue-white game, practice, scrimmage, whatever you want to call it. So plenty more to come. And I think next week, we'll have a little bit of draft talk. Whether that's me and you, whether that's me and Nick Faraball from the Steelers at PennLive. Not just Venga Ioane, but a handful of Penn Staters will be hearing their names called on draft weekend. So looking forward to that. But Bob, This was great catching up, man.
Yeah, and I just want to add, Johnny, like you mentioned all those things, and that's all true. But you have a full 3 more Masters days to enjoy. We recorded this pretty early on Friday morning. It's not even 10 a.m. yet, but we wanted to get one out to the fans to either watch or listen to. But Johnny, I have a pretty good idea. If you're not writing stories the next 72-ish hours, I have a pretty good idea, like what your focus is going to be on. Good luck with it, and all of your Masters pools, bets, and also enjoy the coverage. I hope you can make sure, or I guess this is another day where it could be on 17 different streaming services. But eventually, as we get to the meat and potatoes of the tournament over the weekend, I would imagine it's just going to be on CBS, I guess Jim Nantz, all those guys. So I know you're looking forward to it. So enjoy your Masters weekend.
Thank you. And everyone enjoy their Masters weekend. And if you don't like golf, just enjoy the weekend.